So I kind of have that approach where it's just like, well, we die. Like,
hello and welcome to episode 6. It's episode 6 of Is This Thing On podcast with myself, Michael Jansen, and my good friend Alysia Knowles. Alysia, how's it going?
all is well on this end. How's everything on your end?
I'm alive and well. It is a lovely,
Alhamdulillah.
cold, rainy day here in London, and it makes me very happy because since I arrived, it's pretty much been clear blue skies every day, and it's so infuriating because I've lived in deserts my entire life, and then I arrive here and it's kind of like, oh great, so no rain for me. Wonderful. So now today is freezing and raining, and I'm
you brought the
in my element. I'm so happy.
Good. That's how I feel when I go back to Oregon. It's like all rainy
Up
and
there
everybody's
in
like,
the-
this is miserable. I'm like, this is great. Let's go for a walk. They're like, no. I'm like, but it's great.
Yeah, no, and they always take, it's funny, they always take it as such a slap in the face when you tell them that you like the weather that they hate. They're like, oh, you traitor, how dare you say that about our weather?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to like
No.
our weather. How dare you?
First of all, it was my weather once too. So simmer the attitude
Not anymore
down.
though. Nah.
Yeah, definitely not
It's
anymore.
it's not your weather anymore.
Thanks, guys.
Love the support.
All right, so
really good.
I think enough about the weather. you wanna
Um,
reel us into our first little bit here?
We've kind of stepped away from the one general big overarching macro piece of news, and because we actually have a lot of fun just reacting to whatever little news headlines we can find that's not coronavirus related. So I'm just going to scroll down, literally, and it's terrible. CNN literally has the top stories, all of them coronavirus related. Scroll down, then there's another section called Life Under a Pandemic. That's the same thing. Okay, cool. So now, sorry, so that's my little rant over. Now, so there's a couple of little interesting ones here. There's a giant asteroid. It's going to come past on Wednesday. Today is Tuesday, so tomorrow apparently Earth will be able to see a giant asteroid coming past. Do you ever feel when you read those kind of stories that you're like, well, okay, great, the world is ending, or is it kind of like, I don't pay attention to any of that?
When I see stuff about asteroids or anything about, let's say, space, it almost doesn't feel real. So I kind of have that approach where it's just like, well, if we die. Like,
Is
What are we
that
gonna do
is that
about it?
because of just because there's no frame of reference? Just I don't know what space is like. I'm just down here on Earth. Life is chilled. Like
no frame of reference,
tell
but
me about
also we
asteroids
don't talk about it that often. We don't talk about like asteroids, like, you know what I mean? Like, unless you're like in that field, it isn't like regular schmegular news. Unless it's like the eclipse or something along those lines, it's not really making headlines. How do you feel about
Did you
the asteroid coming to kill us all?
Was it the well, okay. Well, this particular one isn't, so I don't feel any type of way. But hypothetical asteroid that we're trying to that is going to come and kill us. What are you going to do? Like, you know, I mean, it's coming. But the problem is, right, that every time that I think it's reached a point of boy cries wolf or NASA cries wolf rather, where people are just kind of like, yeah, but you know, we've heard this before. Somewhere, there's an asteroid. Yeah, there's been asteroids,
Yeah.
dude. That it's happened before. So that's my feeling. Frankly, the day that it comes where there really is going to be an asteroid that's going to destroy us all, everybody's going to know about it. If it is really, really coming, for sure, 100% certain it's coming, we'll know about it. So I'm not.
You
I'm not
just
stressing about it right
described how the America feels about Corona.
now. No, don't say that.
No, that's exactly it. Like, America has been crying wolf to our population so much with swine flu and
That people
with
just are kind of
bird
like,
flu and
coronavirus.
with Ebola. And, well, no, that's why I think nobody took it, especially stateside, why nobody took it as seriously as they should have, was because the media has been trying to scare us for so long. And when this one was real, the real time to react and respond and stay home and do the protocol, everybody's like, yeah, I'll be at the bar. You know what I mean? Like, because they did the hype and
no,
the
I get you.
scare and stuff with all these other things, that when it was never as bad as this. You know what I mean? And so now that everybody's starting to see, especially stateside, that, yo, this is, hello.
But the other thing is, I also feel like Americans as well, and I'm not taking shots at, big old Sam.
Get ready for shots, guys.
I'm not taking shots in a way that's meant to offend. I'm just, some people might get a bit triggered. My point is that there is a feeling in the rest of the world that Americans do like their conspiracy theories. So if any country were going to be like, oh yeah, well, it's the government, they made that up, it would be America. They would be the ones that would be like, yeah, that's not real. The government's lying to us. The Area 51, they made up coronavirus or something. And I half think Trump thinks like that as well. Donald's probably a conspiracy theorist.
See, this is Trump trying to tell us that we shouldn't be doing vaccines. That inside the vaccines, there's these disinfectant like properties and whatever. And I don't know how much validity there is to that. I couldn't keep reading about it. But there was like a whole group of people who are like, Trump's here for us. He's trying to tell us the vaccines are bad. Like, America.
I'm not going to say anything more. But what I will say is, that is absolutely something I wanted to talk about. I wrote it down and I forgot to tell you. But I want to talk about the difference between censorship and protection. You know how people are like on Facebook, they're obviously like blocking certain things that aren't. Yeah. Or trying, and then credit to them for doing so. But they're trying to block certain things so that people aren't in danger, obviously, for like false information, fake news. But what happens when it's the president that's telling you to inject disinfectant? I'm laughing, but it's very serious because that's so dangerous. I mean, like the number of 911 calls related to poison, they skyrocketed. Yeah. They went through the roof. Like that's terrible. Like you've got, and I think maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but there's a sense that you wouldn't say stuff like that if you realized just how easy it is to influence and just how easy it is to affect a population. They were talking to, going back a couple of, I think just over a year and a bit now, there was an event where a very, very, very well-known social media influencer guy, he makes a whole lot of motivational videos or whatever, but the agency I was working with had a conversation with him. They were just talking and said to him, listen, by the way, you've got a couple of million followers. Do you know that if even 2, 3, 4, 5% of your entire following just did what you said, you could sway an election?
Yeah.
There are social media pages which, if they made a statement that they would be influential enough where if only 5% of their entire following, only 5%, they could swing an entire election.
That's insane to think about.
Very, very interesting. And which is why I say we talk about, like, I don't know, I'm sure you must have seen the whole London Real saga with Brian Rose and that interview being taken down. I think it was the David Icke episode or something. There was this episode that got taken down by YouTube, it got taken down by Facebook, everybody was against it, whatever. And he went on an entire rampage. But to be fair, this David guy was talking about a bunch of stuff, with very little in the way of it, from what I could see, very little in the way of evidence or anything to support these claims. And where do you draw the line between censorship and protection? How, like, between censoring the freedom of speech? I get it, freedom of speech. I understand. I mean, Arab Spring, like the only reason that people got their democracy was because they spoke up. So fine, right. I understand. But also, how do you protect the people that are so easily influenced by incorrect information that they don't, like, there's certain people that just don't do their due diligence before injecting something. Do you know what I mean?
So this is
like,
a
where's the line
concept
to protect those
that
people?
I've thought about so often, simply because I don't know. I truly do not know. And that's what's scary about it, is you don't want media to have so much control, especially for the U.S. Our trust in the media is so low because of how much it's overhyped and how much they perpetuate certain topics just for views, and for clicks and for money, just money. Let's boil it down to that, that our trust is so low. So you have the one hand where you have to kind of bully or put in their place this media to go, yes, you can say this. No, you can't say this. No, you can't perpetuate this if it's incorrect information. But those are the people who also have leaked a lot of information that we need, or who have told us about topics that we need, and journalists that we trust and who have done proper investigative reporting and who have told us things that we didn't know before and things that
we needed
so
to
you
know.
have the Arab Spring. So people are getting this information not just in your one country, but internationally. And then there can be a conversation and then something can be done about it. I don't know what that is. I know for a while there was a bunch of news sources in the States when Trump was first running for election talking about having like an on-the-spot fact checker. So something that would literally pop up on the screen or something like that saying like, no, yes, no, yes. But somebody there actively fact checking what's happening. But realistically, while that seems kind of like a good plan, is it idealistic? Is it too much? Would people even believe it because the trust in the media is so low? Would they see that and go, yeah, okay, I get it? Or would they still just take what he's saying at face value? I honestly don't know. That one is hard for me because it is such a big problem. But at what point are you letting things like Facebook and YouTube control the narrative? Because either they don't like it,
and the problem is how much, to what degree, and I'm obviously an avid user of all these platforms, but to what degree can you trust that platform? If they're the ones policing, like who's policing the police that's policing them? Do you know what I mean? Like there's this chain of, I don't know what the word is, responsibility or just or integrity of where's the actual correct information coming from, which is a whole other conversation to be had after that, which is how do we define correct information? Because there's any number of ways to reinterpret statistics. You know, when you say X number out of 100 people, okay, well, how many people did you survey? Yeah. You know, like, where's your data coming from? What data sets did you use? How are you extrapolating that based on such a tiny data set? And you're saying out of 100,000.
Down to us.
How so?
Yeah. Us policing ourselves. If that I don't know if that makes
sense. In the more micro sense.
Research,
so like
and becoming more aware of that, I guess. There's a good majority of, and I will say millennials is where it starts to get, I feel, a little bit better. But the generation before us and before thought and have the mindset that you read the news every morning, you read the paper, you watched the news, and that was you being educated on the world, right? But now, if you do those same things, you might not be getting completely accurate information. We have the whole world at our fingertips. So if you decide to, A, vote on something, know what you're voting on, you know what I mean? Do the research, see what it is. So that's a president or that's a bill or whatever it is that you're putting your opinion on, at least know what that is. If you're going to go on social media and share a post, no matter how many followers you have, do a little bit of research. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't take that long to do like a 30-second to 2-minute Google search. You know what I mean? And then verifying from other sources. And as a whole, we know what those verified sources are, right? Like, if you see some random website that...
Well, we should, because I feel like that's half the problem. I don't think we know what like real, like an actual reliable source means. Because and I love that you pointed it out. And to the older generations, it's unfortunate, but they'll get stuff on their email, they'll see stuff on their Facebook, and they'll hit share because for whatever reason XYZ either appeals to them, they can relate to it, they resonate with the opinion, whatever the case is, and they'll share it. And that's the start of the domino, and that's how, you know, everyone in the same clique or group intensify this same idea that is moving around, that's being forwarded on WhatsApp, or someone's click share on Facebook, or sent it to their friends via email. When really, as you say, there was no 2-minute Google search. There was no, because it suited what you were thinking at the time. You just saw it and you were like, yeah, sounds about right. Sounds about right.
Because it perpetuates your narrative. So then I have a question on that kind of topic, and then we can move on to our kind of think piece if you'd like. Do you consume news sources or news documentaries, anything that doesn't align with what you believe? Be it political or business-wise or whatever.
I'm not very into politics, so
okay.
From a primary standpoint, that gives me, and I don't know, maybe I'm just hiding behind it, but a lot of people, when they talk about like certain news outlets and like who do you listen to,
right?
For a lot of people, it's very politically driven. That decision is very politically driven, or can at least be very closely linked to your political tendencies and your leanings.
Agreed.
So I'm not majorly into politics. I probably lean towards the more liberal side. However, the vast majority of the content that I consume news-wise is more towards business news. And when it comes to that business news, I consume it from a bunch of different places. Obviously, probably the majority of them are very similar, but it'll be Bloomberg, it'll be the Financial Times, it'll be I watch Sky, which is UK based. So I guess I mean I don't know, all of those are fairly mainstream. I don't go necessarily all the way left and try and find something else. I know that there's one news outlet called RT.
Okay.
That a lot of people are very into. Al Jazeera obviously is another one. But I don't. Yeah, I'm not into news per se. Like I follow the people that talk about the things that interest me, and then I kind of leave the rest to the rest, because I'm not the kind of person who wants to necessarily get too much into stuff that I don't know and don't feel comfortable talking about, because I just don't want to be that guy who just runs his mouth about stuff. Like I was having dinner with a friend not long ago, and there was this thing about, you remember where Bill Gates stepped down?
Yeah.
Or something recently, and this is my problem. I guess this is where it comes down to, and then I guess we can move on. But what frustrates me is if someone says the literal statement becomes, "Oh, Bill Gates stepped down because of coronavirus." No, that's not like, or that he was fired as CEO because of coronavirus. No. He wasn't the CEO. He was the founder. He's German. He didn't get fired because he can't get fired. He's the founder and chairman. And it wasn't because of coronavirus. It's been in the works for however many years already, and there's succession planning and all that. So you can't, like, that's what I find super frustrating. We just jump onto one thing. We say, read a headline. Obviously, I know that's what we were doing at the beginning of this podcast, but it's the sake for a funny reaction. But you can't just jump onto a headline and be like, this is the thing. This is my knowledge for the day. It's so dangerous. So dangerous. Yeah, so I don't know what the answer is, but I think it's so dangerous when we just jump onto this one headline, whatever it is, this line that we've heard wherever it is, whether it's in conversation, whether it's on social media or a news outlet, but we just say, without having, it's one thing to take the headline, it's another thing to take the actual article, but it's what I think is becoming more and more important, and I think it relies on us. When you say the solution is us from a micro sense, it relies on us taking the headline, then reading the article to make sure we understand what we're saying, then checking if there's, for whatever reason, something doesn't add up. Do the research, like check something, because even the most reliable outlets.
So how many times just in your own world have you seen something, clicked on it, and then the article turns out to be nothing of the sort?
That's bad journalism.
Yeah, but it's what goes around on Facebook. It's what gets
I know,
shared
it's
on
terrible.
Instagram.
I know,
it's
but there's also
on Twitter.
Okay, sure, but there's also a difference between it being a list of the 15 most creative house hacks to do with a bottle opener compared to, an article about, the final decisions that were made on voting day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand clickbait is everywhere, but if there's clickbait when it comes to something that's really, really important, like this is important information. If there's clickbait around how to protect your family from coronavirus, that's a serious problem. That's terrible journalism. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist, because it does exist.
Exactly what's happening now. And I'm not saying necessarily let's not put it in the way of journalism, because I don't think that these are legitimate journalists, air quotes because you can't see me, but it's what news is being put out there as legitimate news that isn't.
But that's what I'm saying.
So if you are journalists, you know what I mean? And we can't talk about them. The people creating the content, I don't think there's any way for us to stop that until we stop clicking on it, until they're not seeing the ad revenue, until there's a punishment for it, and usually it's a financial one that stops it. Ultimately saying that you shouldn't do that, that's bad, that's great, but the people who are creating this content ultimately don't care about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. But I think to your point of what is and isn't a journalist, we are journalists. Anyone who takes out their phone, puts on stories because they see a fire on a building, they're a journalist. They're giving information to they are broadcasting information. That purely, by definition, makes them a reporter. They are a journalist. They are reporting on something that is happening. Whether that's I get you, I totally get you when you say there needs to be some kind of financial repercussions. In Dubai, there are. If you are reporting fake news, there is a legal implication. Yeah. I would take it a step further and say that in the same way that we tell people not to steal when they're 2-3 years old, don't lie. It's as simple and as wide-reaching as that. You are, when you lie to people, you potentially change the fabric of what society is. When you report false journalism, false news, that is horrific. The potential implications. And I'm not trying to be overly dramatic, but the implications are That's my Kanye rant for the episode is done. So yeah, moving swiftly along. For me, I think it's super important that when any human being has the opportunity to read a piece of news, please do so either with a grain of salt. Don't go running your mouth. Do your research. Simple equation. Simple equation.
That's it. It's really, really easy.
Do your research.
Or like Michael does, just don't get involved in things that you don't know enough about.
Just shut your mouth, man.
If you aren't willing to go the extra step to share that, to do the research, then just don't. Just don't.
Yeah, and oh my god, I saw someone the other day on Facebook. I'm going to keep ranting because I'm upset now. But there was someone who posted the other day saying something like, "Oh, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, whatever, they have a vested interest in selling you information. The WHO is a for-profit organization. They're trying to. It's in their best interest for you to stay in lockdown. Until there's a cure." And I'm like, oh my god, guys, no, it's in their best interest for you to stay in your homes and be safe and not die. Please don't be an idiot. Please don't. They're not there. It's the fucking World Health Organization, guys. They're trying to help with information about health. It's not like, oh yeah, we can make an extra couple of million on the profit line if those people in the Midwest stay at home, that factory dies, and then this other partner organization that we work with, if they get more profit than we win. That's not what's happening. This is not this giant conspiracy theory against the average human being. It's not like that. This is a global pandemic. People are trying to survive. Just calm down. Calm down.
I'm gonna comment on it now.
Okay.
But my thing is even if there is a conspiracy theory, okay? Mm-hmm. Let's just say and giggles that there is,
Mm-hmm.
that does not take away from the fact that you need to stay home right now.
Exactly.
It does not take away from the fact that people are dying.
Yes.
Like, have your conspiracy theories. That's fine. Stay home. Stay home and have them. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
Going out and exposing other people or yourself or your family members to this, there are very real life and death repercussions of that. So, okay, if there's a conspiracy theory, there's a conspiracy, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe. Okay? We'll just leave it up for y'all to decide. But at the end of the day, there's consequences.
Stay home. Don't be stupid. Don't be a dumb guy. Okay. Moving swiftly along. Sorry, because I'm getting far too ranty and ravey. So you wanted to talk. There was a super interesting piece of content that you wanted to talk about. I believe it's a friend of yours, Michelle, released a song not long ago, and she did it in quite a unique way. I'm not sure if it's been done. I'm sure it may have been done before, but tell me about what happened.
So she's the first person I've seen do it in UAE. You know what or actually for me personally, the first person I've seen do it ever. But she created a Instagram filter to go along with each song. So she released 4 songs on her first EP, mm-hmm. and each song has a filter accompanied with that. And I know, okay, this is super like lighthearted after our just doomsday talk, but I love that. I just thought it was so, I've never seen anybody do it. It gave people a way to interact with the song. It gave people like something fun that we already love. We love our filters, and you got to play and listen to her song and kind of see like a visual of what she feels about the song. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I just
do you think, was it just I'm going to do it for fun, or do you think she was doing it because she's like a low-key just a marketing genius?
I think she's a marketing genius.
Okay. That's a big claim.
I know. I don't know. Michelle, are you a marketing genius, or was this just for play? I think you're a marketing genius. Well, because I mean, she grew up in the age of social media. You have to know.
She's a native. I'll fully give her the props. Absolutely, exactly. The props have been given.
I love it.
I assume that could work for us as well, right? So, like, can you see that working for any kind of content? Like, can any kind of content creator do stuff like that?
Yeah, I think so. I was, when she did it, I was like, all right, so how do I make this work for the podcast? But there has to be some hype around it, right? There has to be like a reason. It has to be like
it's not just for the sake of it, yeah.
Or like, yeah, something that like marks an event for us, right? Or like we hit like 1,000 subscribers or whatever it is, and then we create is this thing on podcast like filter. Like that would be.
I love the filters
sick,
where
right?
the thing like sits above your head and there's like it runs through the cycle or whatever, and you've got to guess something or whatever the case is. I think those are super interactive. Those are the most fun, I think.
Really?
Yeah. I enjoy the gibberish. You've seen the gibberish one, right?
Yeah.
Hey, people got dirty minds. People have really dirty minds. Like that's all I'm gonna say about that. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Okay, so what's your piece of content? Like we talked about it briefly before this, but
so this piece of content we've agreed it's gonna kind of also be our thought, but I wanted to play a little game here, because in 5.5 we mentioned I mentioned that one of my terrible skills is procrastination, and not just getting the work done, and it's something I'm really bad at, and to me, you're someone who's very good at it. You're very good at getting the work done. Like when something needs to get done, you just put your head down and you make it happen. I am a terrible procrastinator. So there's these 2 pieces of content. So the first is, it is a YouTube video. It's a TED talk by a guy called Tim Urban. It's called Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator. So I rewatched this because I've watched it a bunch of times. I love it. I think it's probably one of my favorite TED Talks. I rewatched it, went back through it, kind of picked out some of the key points, and then to counteract it, and it's funny you spoke about taking in different points of view. I counteracted it with this Seth Godin video. It's an 8-minute video It's called Why Most Fail to Ship, or Get It Out. Like why most people fail to just get something going. And so it's called Why Most Fail to Ship, Seth Godin Marketing Wisdom. It's also on YouTube, both of which we'll link to below. What I did is I gave you the Seth Godin video to watch and sort of pick apart, and then I've taken the procrastinator video, and I kind of wanted to just not debate it, but like, because I know that we've already gotten significantly heated on this episode, so I just wanted to like, we'll back and forth it from these different perspectives.
Okay, so give me a little bit on the master procrastinator point. What's his, like, let's say 3 points?
His kind of like high level summary of his talk was, he was speaking about how you figure out quite early on that you're a procrastinator, right? Like in school, high school, university, whatever. Like people they figure it out. They know that they're a procrastinator, right? And he was explaining kind of why. And he made this joke about having access to an MRI, and he shows this kind of cross section of a brain, but it's actually just like a stick figure drawing. And in a normal person's brain, they have the rational decision maker who's at the wheel. It's this big ship wheel, and they're kind of, deciding what to do when. But procrastinators have a special brain, because in their brain they also have the instant gratification monkey. And it's this little monkey who hops around and only wants to do things that fit within these 2 criteria.
Okay.
Has to be easy, and it has to be fun. And it comes at the cost of all else. So no matter what is going on, whether there's deadlines or not, it doesn't matter. This instant gratification monkey kicks in and decides that you're going to go and watch YouTube now, and you're going to start by watching an explainer video about how magnets work, and then you're going to end up 6 hours later watching interviews with Justin Bieber's mom, for example.
Right.
So this is the traditional, the downward spiral of the instant gratification monkey, which I resonate with the most. He talks about how his final dissertation, his senior thesis, he ended up having to do it in like a couple of days because he was just such a bad procrastinator. That was my story. I did mine. I had 4 or 5 months to do it. I ended up doing it in 7 days because I'm just such a bad procrastinator. My instant gratification monkey is incredibly skilled. He's a very smart, very clever little monkey. He's a very cheeky monkey. He knows what he's doing. So he then goes on to explain that there is only one thing that can override the instant gratification monkey, and that is the panic monster. The panic monster reminds the decision maker, the rational decision maker, that there are certain repercussions for not doing work, be that financial hardship, failures, public embarrassment, whatever it is. But the panic monster just kind of sets things back into reality, and it's like, okay, come on, dude, you got to get this stuff done. So this is the idea of the procrastinator, and I completely agree. Like that is exactly what it is, and I'm all for it. And frankly, and so he ends up, his final conclusion is that everyone is a procrastinator. Every human being on earth is a procrastinator. It just depends on what they're procrastinating about, and it's generally comes down to when there is stuff with no deadline. So when there is no deadline, there is no limit to your procrastination. So for things like starting a podcast, things like starting a business, getting healthy, sleeping enough, eating correctly, exercising, whatever the case is, there's no time limit. There's no
I feel like you're calling me out. Like, I know that you think that I put my head down and I get work done. But that usually
but
comes
you do
with
though.
deadlines.
You do though.
Yeah, but I'm still fat.
No, but obviously Panic Monster just hasn't decided to kick in for whatever reason. There's no deadline.
I feel like as far as, okay, I'm going to jump into the other video where you talk about this, what is it, shipping, right? Getting it done.
Yeah. Not just getting it done. Just a caveat. Seth's thing that he talks about is you have to ship it, as in send it out. It has to finally get sent out. So you can do the work. Doing the work is fine, but it has to be submitted. Like, it literally has to leave your hands. Is the concept of shipping it.
So in that same thing, he also talks about like saying just to quit.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's not what you want to do, or if it's not something you want to excel at, quit, stop. And in that moment, because I will do that to myself, is go, okay, fine. If you're not going to do it, then just don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that I do not care about, I will not do.
How long does it take you to make that decision, though?
It really varies. It varies on what it is. You know what I mean? If it's a personal thing, like something that I want to do, I'm not very good at quitting. I'll just leave half-finished projects.
and with the intention of getting back to it.
Yeah, with the intention of getting back to, dude, my hard drives, like, honestly, like, I have so much content, and I'm just not motivated about it anymore. I'm not excited. They were personal projects, and it's fine. Like, I'll get to it when I get to it. But let's say, for instance, poetry.
Mm-hmm.
If that thought comes into my head of like, okay, one of my poems, Mochaccino Baby, I was never going to perform this. And it was because I was so petrified of the judgment from it that I was like, meh, no. But then there was like this part of me that was like, okay, well then, like, are you ever going to be really authentic in this medium? Are you going to always kind of censor yourself and hide yourself? Or are you going to crack on with it? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that thought of just like quitting everything or essentially going balls deep that pushes me.
How did you reach that conclusion?
With the poetry?
Yeah. Like, how do you reach the conclusion when you literally click submit? You click post and publish. And it's the one thing that it's kind of the one reason I didn't like the Seth Godin video, was because I felt seen. And he was like, the idea is that when you click submit, you can't change it anymore.
Yep.
It's done now. That's you saying that it's done and you're happy with it, and people can criticize it now. And they can give their opinion on it. That terrifying.
I'm going to give you how I grew up.
Ooh.
My mother is the worst procrastinator of life, okay?
Okay.
She hated cleaning the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we grew up in a very messy house when it was just my mother, because those things she didn't care about. You know what I mean? Like, there's other reasons why she didn't care, but just her general fiber was a very, very cluttered procrastinator, free spirit, go with the flow. Like, I'm going to take my kids out of school and go to Universal Studios because I feel like it today. Kind of her personality. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, my stepfather was very, you do your chores before you get to do anything fun. If what you need to do isn't done, you don't get to do what you want to do. Yeah. And so my nature is to procrastinate. My nature is to go, meh. But there's that my stepdad just in the back of my head going, do what you want, do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. And then on top of that, he would say, anything that you do, you have to be willing to sign your name to. If you're not willing to put your name on it, then don't do it.
That's a good one.
And so these two conflicting things, like, they're constantly battling each other, let's be real. But I think the balance in that is I always have my dad going, would you put your name on that? Are you doing what you want to do before you do what you have to do? Yeah. And this also, I'll tell you this from now, is this puts me back as well. It means that if I procrastinate and do not finish the things that I have to do, there is a good chance that I'm not going to finish anything. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. If I have, let's say, 4 hours on the weekend, and I know that I need to get a piece of client work done, it's the weekend, and I want to edit my personal work, I will not do either because I need to do the client work first, but I do not want to do it. And because I haven't done what I'm supposed to do, I can't do what I want to do. So nothing gets completed.
Because there's this just constant feeling of guilt, even when you're doing even when the instant gratification monkey wants to kick in, you just feel guilty, and you're kind of like, I can't.
Yeah.
So what do you do in that moment? Like, you're sitting on the couch, you can't do your client work, you can't do your own stuff. What do you do?
I tell myself, okay, fine, you need a break. Watch Netflix.
You've earned a break. You haven't done anything, but you earned it. You thought a lot about things.
Usually,
you had the right
this
intention.
is the weekend.
Yeah,
this is
you deserve it.
When I technically should be taking a break, but I know that I don't need it. You know, like I don't need to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. Like, so then I go, fine, take a break, and then you'll be more productive on Sunday. And to be fair, most of the time I am, but I know that I could have knocked off a bunch of tasks in those 4 free hours. But I couldn't do it.
That's fair enough. I'm very similar, I think. Very similar. I think I often, the thing for me always comes back to the deadlines, which I think is right. If there isn't a deadline, like a really hardcore deadline, if someone doesn't say to me, I need this by this day and time, I really struggle.
Which is where, like, I need you to hold me more accountable. We're supposed to release a podcast tonight.
That's totally the wrong way around. I can't. What? That's so hypocritical of me to hold someone to a timeline. That's terrible.
You should. Because if we're both procrastinators, if we both hold each other to a timeline, we may in a month be very agitated with the other person, but we also will have a successful podcast.
Why, if we weren't before already agitated?
Ooh. This is about to be a counseling session. What's up, Michael? You got some feelings? You need to express yourself?
You said sure to my design.
Oh my God.
That's never going away. Week. That's never going away. So what's your, okay, so then what is your conclusion then for which side are you on? Are you on the just shut up and do the work side, or are you on the deep down there's just this innate feeling of wanting to be lazy?
So
and
I
just
feel like
do the easy
at
and
this
fun.
current moment, I fall into the innate.
Okay. Procrastinator. You're a born procrastinator.
But I don't want to be, and I think that's the thing that drives me, is because I watch a lot of like Gary Vee and motivational videos and all these things.
Yeah, but does it work though?
It works at times, not all the time.
It stopped working for me a long time ago. Like,
see, but you have to switch it up. You have to like go through like a healthy amount of like guilt or like motivation or like shame. You have to like switch up the emotions to constantly keep like pushing at yourself a little bit. And I'm hoping, so like, okay, like this, I never make my bed or never made my bed.
Okay.
Hated the task. I hated it so much that when I was a child, I would make my bed, use a different blanket, lay on top of my made bed, and then fold the blanket that I used the next morning. Because I could not handle, I hate the task. I hate it. But I've made it an effort over the past like 6 months to make my bed every morning. To the point where if I come in my room now and I forgot to make my bed that morning for whatever reason, it rarely happens now, but it makes me uncomfortable.
Well,
did I still procrastinate the task? Yeah, but now I'm going to go take that few minutes, make my damn bed, and move on with my day. But it's just making these little things for me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still terrible. I'm so bad, but
well, all credit to you. Jordan Peterson would be proud. All credit to you. Well done. I don't make my bed. I don't care.
For making my bed?
Yeah, I don't do that. I'm lazy. Oh, no, do you know what? Because I was going to ask you then, what's the conversation that you had with yourself when it comes to actually getting it done? For me, for the podcast, actually doing the podcast, because we've procrastinated for months, was sheer boredom. sheer excruciating boredom. There is nothing that makes me want to be more productive than absolute disgusting boredom.
Okay, I'll give you mine in this situation. I bought all this equipment. Money is a really
I just pointed
big
at
motivator
the
for
camera.
me.
I meant, picture me pointing at you, because that's also a big part of it as well. And I'm gonna call it there. And thank you so much to everyone for joining us on episode 6 of Is This Thing On Podcast. God knows how long we've gone now. I think we've probably gone a good hour and 10 maybe.
We're right about the hour mark.
as usual. So thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to get your thoughts on procrastination. I want to know whether... I know that you do procrastinate, whoever you are out there. I know that you do procrastinate. But I'm curious to hear your procrastination stories. So please do let us know in the comments below. Or reach out to us on our socials. Please, wherever you're listening, YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, whether you're listening on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, the whole toot, please do leave us your ratings, reviews. On YouTube, please subscribe, hit the notification button and everything. Share it if you think this is entertaining, if you can think of people who, during this lockdown, could use some content. I will also say that we have a Patreon page up and running. So if you would like to become a supporter, if you'd like to become a bigger part of our journey, helping us to make this a better podcast, the Patreon link is down below. If you don't want to support us every month because we just talk a bit too much, you can, of course, just buy us a coffee. There's a link to that down low. It's code-fi.com/ITTO-pod. So you can head on over there. And, of course, from me, I look forward to speaking to you on the next episode. Alysia, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Also, notes. Buy us coffee. Go on our Patreon. I need a new laptop.
She really does. She really does. It would make her life a lot easier. And then she can... Wait, I don't know if it would, though, because you'd procrastinate more. Because you'd be like, oh, I got loads of time. I don't need to do it. It's not going to take 6 hours to render. So maybe don't.
Yeah, but it would help.
Maybe don't help us.
Hey, guys, don't listen to him. Don't listen to negative Nancy over there. Okay, bye, guys.
Ciao.